Welcome to the wild city of Anchorage. Like all urban jungles, this city is plagued by thieves and petty crime. But here in Anchorage, the culprits aren't human, they're wild animals. This unique Arctic city is home to 5 wild wolf packs, hundreds of bears, and over 2,000 moose. These notorious animals are running riot, crossing busy highways, giving birth in backyards, and even doing battle right here in suburbia. But life on the streets is fraught with danger, and in this expanding city, more highways mean more moose deaths. But the people of Anchorage are on a mission to protect this iconic animal. This is Arctic City. Alaska is known as the land of the midnight sun, where in some parts of the state, they have constant daylight for 3 months. This intense amount of sunlight brings life and beauty like nowhere else on Earth. 3 million lakes, 100,000 glaciers, and 29 volcanoes, and Alaska is bursting with life. There is one wild creature here that thrives more than any other, and it has become the Alaskan state animal, the moose. Standing up to 6.5 feet tall and weighing over 1,500 pounds, moose are the largest hoofed animals on Earth. When autumn comes, it's time for the rut. These males are using their mighty antlers to fight for the top spot in the herd. The risk of injury is high, but the reward is great, as this winner claims his prize. When spring comes, the females give birth to his young. The calves are able to stand within the first day of their lives, but they are vulnerable as bears, wolves, and coyotes are always on the lookout. But these icons of Alaska have also set up home in Anchorage. So adapted are they to city living, they have found an interesting survival technique to their urban life. The female moose have found protection for their calves in people's gardens, but hiding in the city does have its downfalls. Mothers will leave their young for long periods of time to find food and water, even when they're just a few weeks old. The residents of Anchorage think they're abandoned and come to the rescue. But when the mothers come back, they will then reject any young that has had human contact, and a calf without milk won't last long in the city. But help is at hand from the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Dedicated to rescuing orphaned animals, moose are their speciality.
Moose are an animal that we care for here at the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. We currently have 3 bull moose in our care. With a lot of moose that come into our care, they are unfortunately orphans. Mothers will fairly regularly separate themselves from their newborns to find safe passage, fresh water, feeding grounds, things of that nature. They can potentially leave them hours at a time.
And unfortunately, that was how Toke, their 1-year-old moose, ended up at the center.
A family in Anchorage thought they were doing what was in the best interest of the animal. They saw him by himself as a very early newborn, so they decided to take him in to try and provide care for him. But unfortunately, in the process, separated him from his mother. And shortly thereafter, the Alaska Department of Fish and Game orphaned him into our care. Seeing how well he's done now and the health that he's maintained, and to be able to be a part of the growth cycle, that's something that's been really rewarding for me.
Come here.
For Scott, it is particularly important to help the moose to live a life as close to the wild as possible.
We do just about everything in our capacity to provide as wild a life as possible. Our staff cut natural vegetation on a daily basis for them, so we try to replicate the natural diet as much as possible. Whenever we are able to bring an animal into our care, there is a fairly sensitive process that we'll go through in establishing what the likelihood of release is for the animals. And in the off chance that we're not able to pursue an opportunity for release, that can enable a lot of our staff to get fairly hands-on.
Hey, bud.
And in the process, very unique bonds can be formed.
Hey. There we go. Look. There we go.
And just 3 weeks ago, they received the latest addition to their moose family.
So this guy was brought here from Anchorage. He was caught in a fence. Mom ended up abandoning him, just running away. Fish and Game came, rescued him from that fence, and tried following Mom, but she just kept going, and so she never got her calf back. And so he was brought here to the center.
Because there is space at the center, under Alaskan law, this moose will remain here for the rest of its life. This means Brad now has the very important job of being a moose mum.
So while we are feeding him, we will try to take breaks between each bout of nursing, just like they would out in the wild with Mom. They aren't going to get a full 20 ounces in one draw, and so we do try to break it up a little bit, walk him around a little bit.
And Brad is happy that this guy is doing really well.
The first 2 feedings, he was pretty slow to jump onto it, but since then he's consistently eaten at every single feeding. Almost always eating all of it, yeah. So he is growing pretty quickly. Good boy.
When moose come to stay at the conservation center for good, it is important they get used to people, so Brad and the other keepers are able to look after them.
Something else we're trying to get him comfortable with is being touched all over his body. So that way when he is older, we can comfortably come in and touch him, do medical stuff with him, such as injections. No nudging me. No nudging me. Good boy.
When the calf is older, he will join the other adult moose at the center. The work of Scott and Brad is so important, as all the moose here play a vital role in educating people how to live alongside these incredible animals. As in Anchorage, they often turn up on your doorstep. But why are these moose so attracted to city living? It's all down to the abundance of food. And there is one thing a moose is particularly partial to: fruit, as local resident Ashley found out.
One evening I was sitting in the living room and all of a sudden I hear this pounding noise. And I can hear it's coming from right outside my front door. And my heart starts racing.
And what Ashley saw outside her window wasn't what she expected.
I get the courage to look outside, and it's a mother moose and 2 babies eating out of this giant cooler of apples that I forgot out earlier that day.
This is what happens when you leave a bucket of apples on your porch in Anchorage, Alaska. I guess I'm not making applesauce this weekend.
But Ashley knows that when a protective mother is in your garden with her babies, you have to be careful.
I don't dare open the front door right now, but as you can see, I just like cracked open my window. So if Mom gets mad, I can just duck inside. But this is pretty amazing. Well, this is way better than watching TV. I guess dinner's over. Well, I've got a little bit of a mess to clean up in the morning.
So from now on, when it comes to her fruit and the trees the apples grow on, Ashley isn't taking any chances.
I just planted a few apple trees in the front yard, and they're just really small baby trees. And one of the things we had to do right after getting them in the ground, you have to wrap them in this big wire cage. Because if you don't wrap your baby trees, a moose just comes in and eats them. It can smell the sugars in the fruit trees, and it's just like candy for moose.
And for now, this recent footage shows the fence seems to be working. But no matter what the moose are up to, Ashley is always pleased to see them.
I've seen hundreds of moose by this point, but every time I see a moose, I still have that internal debate, you know, should I stop and take a picture?
With more and more moose coming into Anchorage, encounters with people are on the increase. And there is one place in Anchorage where there seems to be more moose than people. It's right in the heart of the city. It's Kincaid Park. A popular park for cyclists and runners. Everyone has a story.
I've seen bear and moose in this park, but predominantly definitely moose.
Yeah, when we're out biking in Kincaid, we see moose almost every day.
I'm more surprised if I don't see the wildlife out here. It's just such a huge riding area, and they're just all over the place.
But as fun as it is to see them, the locals know every moose should be approached with caution.
We actually have more issues or problems from moose than we do from bears, mostly because they get a little more defensive, especially here in the spring when they have their calves or their babies.
And every person out on the trail has their own way of making sure they don't surprise a moose.
It's really common for people to ride with bells or make other noises while they're out on the trails. Some people even sing occasionally.
You're out there by yourself a lot of times, you're riding, you got a little something to make a little noise out there. Just to let the animals know there's something coming so we don't startle them, surprise them.
But unfortunately, with more and more people wanting to cycle in the park, the number of routes has doubled in the last few years. This has meant the moose's habitat is increasingly being broken up into smaller fragments. And with this comes an increase in moose encounters. And as we encroach on their space, it is causing some moose to act completely out of character, as Catherine Dwinell found out.
My friend Melanie and I decided to go out for just an afternoon walk, take the dog with us down to Kincaid Park. And we had just pretty much finished our walk, and we were heading back up towards the main trail to get back to our car. And I heard a loud jet noise, and I reached up to cover my ears, and then I was literally hit from behind.
What Catherine didn't realize is that she'd just been hit by an 800-pound moose.
I was thrown to the ground. We never even saw it coming. And then I noticed that there was big brown legs and hooves around me, scratching at the back of me.
Catherine knew the only thing she could do was go into the fetal position. But then the moose went for her friend, Melanie.
She was yelling and being attacked. And then it stopped, and we're both on the ground, curled up, and we could see the moose literally like 10 feet away from us.
Catherine thought the moose would now leave them alone, but she was wrong. In this extraordinary event, the moose came back for more.
You know, we're already bloodied and beat up on, in the fetal position on the ground. But then the moose came back for a second attack. I thought, this is it. This is going to be the end.
But finally, after this second attack, the moose moved away.
I had a huge gash in my calf, and I was having trouble breathing. But we were able to walk up through the brush to the coastal trail.
After being treated in hospital, Catherine is now recovering from her injuries and has been able to reflect on the freak incident.
I've been here for nearly 20 years, and I've been really close to moose before, and never has something like this happen. Moose are not aggressive. Something had to have happened well before it got to us.
Due to the increase in trails and people in the park, it's thought that the moose must have been startled by someone else before getting to Catherine and Melanie, and they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Catherine knows it wasn't the moose's fault, and she is determined to still enjoy watching the moose in her neighborhood.
We're around wildlife all the time, and it hasn't hindered me from thinking about going and doing all the stuff that I used to do. I mean, we live with moose in this neighborhood. Such an unusual event to occur.
Anchorage is a growing city. With more and more people moving here, it has meant the city boundaries are expanding. And with that, more and more roads are being built. And it's these highways that are the biggest risk to the urban moose. On average, 156 moose are killed in Anchorage every year. But help is at hand. Kevin Jackson from the Department of Transport made it his mission to come up with a solution: a moose-proof fence.
We put up fence in the highway corridor, and we space one-way gates that will allow the moose to exit the highway corridor, and they won't let the moose come back in. So even if they're a little bit away from the fence, as they're grazing, they kind of get funneled over into the gate, and before they know it, they're outside the right-of-way and everybody's happy.
A collision with a moose can have horrific results.
The moose are very fast too, and they'll dart out in front of you, so they're kind of hard to see until you're right on them. Their body mass is so high, they have those long legs, and for cars, when automobiles or even trucks hit them, all of that mass gets right up on the hood of the car and comes through the windshield. I've seen a lot of crashes where the entire roof of the car is gone. It's a very dangerous situation, so you don't want to hit one.
Today, one of Kevin's team is checking out the fences, as any damage will prevent them from working.
We're here at the off-ramp for Minnesota Drive, and the moose fence here has a gate here that's funneling moose that are trying to get onto the freeway section. So they would walk up here and through the gate, and on our way up, we noticed there's already a kind of a well-worn path, so moose are using it.
After inspecting the fences, Anna is happy they are in full working order. And this year, Kevin and his team have already seen a huge reduction in moose vehicle collisions.
Hurting people and killing people, and the moose. You got to remember, every time, even if a person doesn't get killed, the moose always does. And so there is a benefit to, society and the moose.
But with hundreds of miles of fencing throughout the city, sometimes a moose can get through before it can be fixed. And when you're a calf, you can sneak through.
We were just coming down the road, and it was like running across the road.
Keith Burgess, a local resident, came across a baby moose stranded on the side of the highway, and he knew it needed his help.
It was just scared to death. It was just standing there and kind of shaking, just making like baying noises, kind of like a sheep would a little bit.
Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on.
I don't know, I just felt like I had to comfort it. So I approached it, and I had work gloves on, so I didn't want my human sweat on it, you know. Like, you always hear that, you don't touch a baby animal because it'll get rejected by its mom. But I took the risk, you know. I'd rather have that risk than watching this animal get hit by a car.
It's calling for its mom.
But there was one thing Keith was particularly worried about.
It keeps crying, and you think the mom's right over there.
You see a baby moose, there's the mom somewhere. You do not want to get between those two, because they're more dangerous than bears.
So Keith knew he had to do something quickly.
Just keep an eye out behind you, because his mom's somewhere around here.
I picked it up, you know, like I would have picked up a dog, and just gently swooped it up, and we started walking across the street with it.
You're a champion, good sir.
I just thought it was a really cool experience.
Keith released the moose back through the gap in the fence it had come through. And, luckily for this calf, Keith found out the next day it had been reunited with its mum.
I was very happy that that moose reunited with its mother, was able to continue receiving nourishment and grow up, you know. So yeah, that made me happy.
Keith had come to the rescue of this calf, but sometimes in Anchorage, the moose will actually seek out the protection of humans themselves. Stacey Gates is the manager of a home store in the heart of town. And in June 2016, she had a moose encounter like never before.
We had a mama moose come across the parking lot with a brand new baby, still wobbling and trying to make its way through. And so she made her little spot here right in front of our store. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, you know, and you want to go help, and everybody wanted to bring her water. It was a beautiful experience.
And another eyewitness couldn't believe her luck at seeing such an incredible event.
We pull into the parking lot, and there was some commotion going on. We saw people standing by Lowe's, and I wound down the window and said to somebody, I was like, what's going on out there? And they're like, a mama moose just had a baby about a half an hour ago. And so we got very excited. We jumped out of the car. It was just amazing just to see Mother Nature at work.
But with all the excitement, Stacey knew that she had to do something to protect the moose from people getting too close.
We had a little bit of concern because mama mooses are very, very protective. So we put up cones to let them know there was life happening right there, and she was safe, and the baby was safe, but also the public was safe.
Stacey had even witnessed what had caused this moose to seek refuge in the car park.
There was a bear threatening the baby moose, and mama moose ran the bear up the tree, and so that's why she fled across the parking lot to our parking lot.
This moose had sought protection in the car park, and that is exactly what she received. It was a special and unique experience for everyone that day, and a moment many Anchorage residents will never forget.
I've been here for 10 years, and I don't think I will ever not be excited when I see a moose.
I love the moose. I think they're pretty dear and sweet, but to see it in the parking lot and enjoy that with my customers and my employees, it was pretty endearing because it kind of brings everybody together.
Summer may bring the people of Anchorage amazing opportunities to see newborns up close, but the animals and plants living this far north must work fast to make the most of the short season. Being built to withstand Alaska's extreme winters, however, means these creatures also struggle in the summer heat. Forest fires, infestations, and angry animals can all make the sizzling summers truly uncomfortable in this urban jungle. Almost a third of Alaska lies above the Arctic Circle, and almost half of the state is a vast, treeless desert known as tundra. Beneath the snow lies a layer of ice that in some places is hundreds of feet thick. The state's 3,000 river systems also lie frozen for most of the year, with average temperatures below freezing even in the far south. But this huge barren wilderness is full of life that has adapted to its climate and mastered this extreme environment. Caribou, lynx, and wolves. They are all able to survive Alaska's punishing winters thanks to their unique anatomical adaptations. But over 100,000 bears wait out the winter by hibernating beneath the snow. Plants, too, go into suspended animation, waiting for spring to arrive. And when it does, Alaska undergoes a remarkable transformation. The sun, which in some parts of Alaska hasn't been seen for over 3 months, rises higher and higher in the sky. And known as the breakup, rising temperatures melt the sea ice, which soon allows the rivers to flow once more. As the snow melts, the permafrost beneath the soil means the water has nowhere to go, creating millions of lakes. And these wetlands burst into life with plants that have adapted to these unique tundra conditions. In the forests, black and brown bears awaken with only food on their minds. Creating a habitat unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. And within this wilderness, the 300,000 people of Anchorage must live alongside these wild animals. But in this metropolis, the sizzling summer heat sometimes brings conflict between humans and wildlife.
Come on! Oh my God, there's a bear on my car!
The short, frost-free growing season here in Anchorage is just 100 days. And summer temperatures can be surprisingly hot, with average July highs of 26 degrees Celsius. While human development has removed much of the animal's natural habitat in this area, some animals have learned to make the most of summer in the city. The moose living in Anchorage all year round are one such species. When their calves are born in late May, 8 months after the previous year's rutting season, the city can be a hot and sweaty place. But sometimes living so close to people provides Anchorage's urban moose with a special treat. City. Dozens of brown bears are also trying to stay cool in the hottest part of the day. In preparation for summer, brown bears shed their thick winter fur, leaving a more sparse, shorter coat to allow their body heat to escape. They also pant like dogs, cooling the blood in their tongue which then circulates around the body to prevent overheating. The brown bears here are searching for food. In particular, the newborn moose calves that are hiding out in people's backyards. They are the largest terrestrial carnivore, weighing nearly 1,500 pounds, and need a huge amount of food to build up fat stores for next winter's hibernation. Most calories will be sourced during the autumn salmon run in the city's rivers. But they also scavenge, and their sense of smell is more powerful than a bloodhound's, capable of detecting a carcass over 18 miles away. But the scent of the city's trash in the summer heat is also hard to resist. And when a large brown bear associates food with people, it sometimes needs to be put down, leaving orphaned cubs that can't fend for themselves. Bears rehomed at Alaska Zoo must also deal with the city's summer heat. Jake, Oreo, and Izzy have been cared for by zoo director Patrick since they were cubs.
Some of the things we do in the hot summer days to help keep the bears cool are to bring in shaved ice and put out in the exhibits for them. We'll set up sprinklers to sprinkle water onto them to cool them down. Our brown bears are probably the luckiest of all the bears because there's actually a natural stream that runs through the corner of their exhibit, so they have access to about 45, 50 degree water anytime they want it. And I've seen all three of our brown bears all lying together side by side in the pool on a hot summer day. So we have a number of different things that we do with the bears to try to beat the heat.
But there's one thing the zoo's brown bears prefer more than anything. And over in the food preparation area, Megan is preparing their favorite summer treat.
So today I'm making some popsicles for the brown bears. It's really hot in the summer here in Alaska, well, relatively, about 70 degrees, but the animals up here get really hot. They like to lay out and have some nice cold popsicles to relax with on a hot day. Today we have all fruit popsicles for the brown bears, but they like any sort of thing. So sometimes we'll make meat pops or salmon, blood popsicles. But today we have an abundance of fruit, so that is what it's gonna be.
But it's not just about keeping the bears cool. It's also about making their lives more interesting.
So enrichment is really anything that changes up their daily schedule, whether it be the time that we feed them, what we feed them, how we feed them. So if it's ice popsicles, it'll take them longer to get it out of the ice than it would if they were just fed, straight food.
But today, heat is the problem, as the temperatures have soared to 28 degrees. So the popsicles can't come soon enough.
Our popsicles are all ready to go, so we're gonna go feed them to the brown bears now.
Bears have the most varied diet of any mammal, and keeping up with their huge appetites is a challenge for the keepers all summer long. But having hand-reared these bears since cubs, there is no way such huge animals can be released into the wild, in case they come in search of people to find food.
Unfortunately, it's not possible to release bear cubs back into the wild, and that decision is the Alaska Department of Fish and Game for brown bears and black bears, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for polar bears. Bear cubs will normally stay with their mothers for 2 to 3 years to learn how to survive. If you had them in captivity and waited till they were 2 or 3 years old, they become imprinted on people and expect to get food from people and have not learned the skills they need to survive out in the wild. So most likely they would die going out into the wild, and the possibility that they could hurt a innocent person out there thinking that they're supposed to be providing food for them.
This heat wave may be producing record temperatures here in Anchorage, but summer in Alaska's interior is always even hotter. Hundreds of miles from the coast, summer temperatures sometimes hit 37 degrees. The 24-hour sunlight provides a huge amount of solar energy, allowing plants to grow rapidly. This stifling heat usually coincides with the hatching of trillions of mosquitoes and flies. Laid here last summer, the eggs have lain dormant in the snow all winter. But now, these shallow tundra lakes provide the ideal incubator for the insect larvae, which emerge in a megaswarm. Making life unbearable for animals like the moose. Summer also brings with it millions of birds. Including a species of godwit that uses Anchorage as its breeding ground. Before making a non-stop 7,500-mile flight all the way to New Zealand. The summer insect boom also makes life unpleasant for animals living in the city. Including people, who sometimes forget they are living in the heart of the wilderness. But the residents of Anchorage can fight back. Today, pest controller Robert Doran has been called in to tackle a nest of potentially dangerous yellow jackets.
Of course, this time of day, I'm worried about whether they're going to be active or not. They were active earlier today,
Okay.
and they stung the dog and the guys that were doing some painting around the house and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can sting multiple times. Unlike a honeybee can only sting you one
Right,
time and they're
right.
dead. So that's why people that are really allergic, it can be deadly.
Contrary to popular belief, yellow jacket wasps do serve a purpose, pollinating flowers. Social wasps, like yellow jackets, mate once a year, after which the males will die off, while females will burrow into the ground, lying dormant all winter. In the spring, a fertilized female wasp starts her colony by laying eggs in cell-like pods. Larvae hatch from the eggs, and their diet changes more towards protein. And that usually coincides with barbecue season, bringing wasps into conflict with humans. This nest has actually been formed inside the barbecue, so using a pesticide could have dangerous side effects.
Because they're in your barbecue grill, we're not going to use a pesticide. We're going to use a vacuum. It's going to take, it's going to take a while.
You're going to wear a suit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Yeah, we'll wear a suit.
They're active. And you see those...
Up on the deck, Robert notices the wasp's classic nest-building behavior.
Pretty active. There's usually, we call them sentries, but they're staying right outside the entrance and they're watching. They'll have 3 to 4 insects on the outside just waiting and watching. So they're very, very protective, but you definitely want to be inside when we're doing that. We'll get going though.
Sounds good.
Normally, Robert would leave a wasp nest alone. But the yellow jackets from this nest have now stung a number of people, and Colleen is unable to use her barbecue.
Right now, I'm just trying to get the insects that are flying back into the hive. They've been out gathering food and nesting materials.
Still unsure of the size of the nest, Robert's protective suit is essential.
These insects, when they feel threatened, they'll release a pheromone that the other insects pick up on, and then several will start to come out, and even the ones that are coming back will sense there's danger, and they'll start to act much more aggressively.
But once the majority of the worker wasps have been collected, the nest turns out to be smaller than expected.
Okay, so there's the queen. You can see she's quite a bit larger. They're not at all as aggressive as the worker bees. You can see the larvae here. You can see them, they're very much alive. There's multiple tiers inside the nest itself. If this were left here, it would just continue to get larger and larger and larger. But she's from last winter. And you can see she's not willing to leave the nest. She wants to stay and protect the young. Now that this has been taken down, the queen's been removed. Any other insects that come nearby that come back looking for the nest, they'll discover it was destroyed, and so they'll go elsewhere.
Plagues of insects make Anchorage a hostile place all summer long. But there's another summer phenomenon that affects this area on a biblical scale. Wildfires, and preventing them is virtually impossible.
The trick in wildfire management, especially here in a place that can get as hot and dry as it does here in the summer, is we want fire to occur, but we also don't want to burn down communities.
Tackling wildfires when they occur is important, but Christy at the Wildlife Refuge thinks much, much further ahead.
So when you think about when a wildfire starts, there's only a few things that will stop it. Somehow you need to break the cycle of either the fuel, the heat, or the oxygen. The heat, if you don't catch it small, you don't have a whole lot to stop the fire. And the oxygen's unlikely outside. So when you're pre-planning for the possibility of a large wildfire, the best thing to do is be proactive and preventative with the fuels.
And the main fuel Christy needs to manage may come as a surprise.
What we do is we measure the live fuel moisture, and that's the trees, the shrubs, the herbaceous vegetation, dried grass, obviously. But mostly we actually look at the duff or the ground under the surface of how dry that is. And that's our true indicator of, if it does take, how hard is it going to be to control it?
To find out the current fire risk, Christy takes a fuel moisture sample.
Okay, so we reach down until we feel either ice or mineral soil. These are layers that are burnable. The first is the live moss. And if that's dry enough, then if we get some source of ignition, say lightning or a human source of ignition, it'll actually catch fire. And this is pretty dry right now. The next layer right here, it's considered dead moss. Just below that, this is what's called the upper duff. Upper duff is actually moss that started to disintegrate and become detritus, but it's not soil.
And if a fire spreads to this level, it is almost impossible to extinguish.
So we've been watching, and we have not had very much precipitation. Currently, we have very long solar days, and we're keeping a lot of solar radiation on the fuels, which preheats them. Because of this, coupled with winds and high temperatures, we're in very high to extreme fire danger right now as we speak.
But Christy doesn't see all fires as destructive.
Part of my job as a jurisdictional fire management officer is not to suppress the fire. I need to look for opportunities when we can embrace fire or manage it for multiple benefits, and that would be the benefits of the change in the forest.
The same fires that can destroy human habitat are actually creating new habitat for the wildlife.
Wildfire is a very needed landscape disturbance in a boreal system, and we are a boreal forest. And by boreal forest, I mean that we get cold winters and relatively warm summers. And fire is the change agent.
And one fire that created more change in the forest than any other in living memory was the infamous Funny River fire.
When people go out to a wildfire, they tend to just see a bunch of black trees. But what you don't think about is these black trees used to be a real thick canopy of just maybe one culture of tree, just one thing. So now with this, if you look up, the tree canopy is completely gone. So there's all this abundance of sunlight, and this herbaceous vegetation that wasn't here before can just flourish.
And it's this new vegetation that will also bring the animals back to the forest.
There's just, there's a huge variety of plants here, and this will grow up. And it provides food and habitat for everybody, all the wildlife.
And the recovery of this forest will have a positive impact on Alaska's moose.
The story here is that the moose are very much dependent on this young hardwood browse that comes up from fires. And the reality is that fires don't occur that frequently. Any given acre is only likely to burn every few hundred years. Generations can pass between when you have high moose densities and when you have low moose densities. So the bottom line is lots of people are actually excited here on the Kenai about the fact that we're having big fire, because what it will mean is that in a few years we'll have large moose population on the Kenai Peninsula.
With more summer wildfires looking likely, the future looks bright for the moose. More moose living in nearby forests means more moose coming into Anchorage. They would undoubtedly cause more havoc on the streets of the city, but there is also no doubt they would fit right in. With over 2,000 already living in this metropolis, they have definitely conquered city living. Finding food in people's gardens, giving birth just about anywhere in town, and receiving protection from the city's highways, Anchorage is their home. And hopefully, even with the city expanding further into their habitat, attacks on people will remain a freak occurrence. Ultimately, it seems that no matter what trouble they get themselves into, help is never far away.